Hi everyone. Okay, so today I'm going to talk about the thief archetype. Now I'm also going to bring in a little bit about the guide archetype as well, even though I've done a separate video on this because the two cards come out at the same time. But the thief archetype, in relation to what is stealing your power, right? How the thief archetype can show up in our life, in our business. It can show up in clients. It can show up in relationships. It can even show up in even contractors or people around you in the industry. And why the thief archetype is different, obviously every archetype has different layers to it, but some of the subtleties that you might not notice, which may be pushing that archetype through in situations where you feel mentally, emotionally, physically, or spiritually starved. Okay, so let's have a wee look at the thief archetype. So in the light attribute, the thief archetype helps shed light on potential wealth that is within you, right? Richness that's within you that can never be stolen, because our greatest gifts are things that nobody else can actually take away from us. Okay. It's funny in this modern world where we attach ourselves to so many things. And sometimes I hear people talking about, in particularly, it's like fact, anytime I've had discovery calls with people and people come on and sometimes they just want as much help and information and whatever they can have, but it's like almost they're coming in and they're wanting to take in some ways. They don't mean to, but it's like they're coming from such a place of lack and survival, a perceived survival. It does not mean they are in that they're not in a, they're actually not in the state of lack that they perceive themselves to be, but they react from a place of lack. They're showing up from a place of the as if they're poor in some way and they can't afford certain things and they need you to give it for free. That's almost the thing. They need as much help as they can. It's almost like it's like a child sometimes who just thinks, you think that a child is never sometimes a wee baby, or sometimes they love someone, they just eat it and you think the way you look at them, you would perceive they had never eaten a week, that kind of thing, right? Now, sometimes we see that with the shadow element, right? Now, when the light aspects is the greatest power is inwards, right? But in the shadow, it can be stealing of money. And sometimes it's not the obvious things we think, stealing somebody else's ideas, copying other people's ideas, which is really, really, oh my, it's just unbelievably, it's became norm and unfortunately business now, right? Even trying to steal someone's affection, right? Trying to manipulate somebody's affection or other powers you think you lack. So even it can be that you're trying to steal somebody else's gifts, someone else's path, someone else's mission, because you have a lack within you. And often, we can see that sometimes easily in our life, sometimes with clients, with people that, maybe around about us, they have such a sense they're coming from a conscious state of poverty, right? That they don't even realize it. That in some way they are being a thief in a certain way, because what they're doing is that state of lack, that state of low consciousness that they feel starved and or they perceive themselves as if lacking, that they don't have enough of something, that somebody else has to provide it for free, right? So they kind of almost, and it's like sometimes when you see the freebie wagon where it's a psychological thing, but sometimes it's when we can all have it in us when we see something that's free, right? And we think, oh, right, and we jump in the bandwagon. But at the end of the day, is it what we really need? Do we actually put our full investment, or is it we just perceive and we think, I want that, right? It's also when you perceive that someone else, should do something for free or do it at low cost, you have a sense of entitlement that you believe that you should have that, or you have a sense of entitlement even. And I'm not saying maybe entitlement's not the right word, but what I mean is on some level, you want what they have and you believe that you have the right to get what they have at any means, whatever. So one of the things you can sometimes see is when people start out in business, for example, they want to be the expert, but they've just started out. And some people will go to any cost to be perceived a certain way and will do anything to achieve certain things, right? So they will compromise their ethics, their integrity. They will copy other people's stuff. They will look at the quickest way they can do it. And even if that is just saying, oh, I'll just copy that maybe, but that makes it so much easier. I can just make money from that. I've had scenarios, unfortunately, where people have literally copied my content and come in. And I've also seen coaches, I've been on mailing lists, which has been horrified me. Obviously, after that, I've come off the mailing list where some people said it's okay to copy people's content. Literally, that's the kind of thing. We've got this culture where people, there's no value or respect for someone's, their work and their sacrifice. And, it's the Robin Hood type thing we're going wrong. I remember I worked, I'll not say too much of this, but I worked for an organisation, and this organisation was a charity. And one aspect of the charity was, there was a lot of things that was done from the heart, and there were certain things that they were doing that was right because we're trying to help other people. But they started being a bit the Robin Hood, where they started doing things that wasn't really honest, but they convinced themselves that it was right because it was going to help people. But they started doing lots of things that, well, ethically, I thought was really, to me, it was being dishonest, it was being manipulative, but it was also you could call it the thief, right? The thief archetype was coming in. But it was also because they had feared, they were in a state of lack in some way, and they manipulated that situation and done other things because at some level they thought there was not enough in the pot and they didn't trust that there'd be enough in the pot. So they started taking action and taking things from, basically it was like kind of robbing things from something else. That's all I'm going to say, right? Now, when someone does not value themselves and does not value their own path and their own mission, they can sabotage themselves by doing what I'm talking about, by trying to make out they're a master of something, or copying somebody's content, or looking for just the quickest way to get something, right? Or trying to find a way that they can get what they want, right? It's about what they can get, right? Now, the thief archetype, if we look at what it can also be called as the con artist, the Robin Hood, the swindler, right? But what you have to look at the thief is, you have to look at it from the different layers. See it, in different, and as Caroline Miz says, even in her book, it has to be looked at, from a symbolic meaning. You have to look at this deeper, right? And it's like, if you think about going to school and you're at school and you see someone painting a beautiful picture, right? Or you see someone being able to do it and you think, I wish I was good at maths. I wish I could draw like that kind of thing, right? And, and you sometimes see children pretending that something belongs to them. No, that's mine because that looks better, right? This kind of thing. that is an example again of the thief archetype. It doesn't have to come as just stealing money, right? But it can also be when someone tries to, any way that someone tries to sabotage something to get something that belongs to somebody else with not fair exchange, right? So if you get clients who want things from you, but they want to get it, but they don't want to pay, or they do not, or they try and convince you that it should be a certain price, especially when they're not really your ideal client or soul clients. That's, examples. But for example, when a lot of coaches will talk about this, people wanting help and want to create change, but they don't want to make the investment. And I am a believer. I'm not always a believer, but what I'm saying is a lot of people go and say, if you're not going to invest in certain things, you don't want to get better, or you don't want this. I don't think, sometimes that's not always straightforward, because I see, for example, I seen this thing going about coaching groups many years ago, and I was horrified. And it was these coaches saying, well, I've just said to these clients, if they do not want to invest and they're not prepared to invest, they don't want to get better. Now, number one, that person is assuming that they are the right person for that person. Maybe they aren't the right person. And maybe that person genuinely is unsure if they are the right person for them. They're not quite 100%, and they're looking at that investment, and maybe that is a huge investment for me. Maybe they could get themselves in a lot of financial trouble at that point to take that investment. It's maybe stress. There's lots of factors, but I also do know as well that most people, when they say they can't afford something, and this was a big lesson for me, big lesson for me, repeatedly, that many people, it's not, they choose what they invest because they are paying out money for other things that they choose to invest. I'm not saying it's always. I've been in situations where I genuinely couldn't. I was in dire straits because I invested money in other things that were not the right thing. And I've never been someone that ever expected someone to give me something for free, and I never asked for a discount. But it's something that I've been asked a lot and all these things, and so it's, it depends. But what you can get is people who want to push on to you, right? Their thief traits, their archetypal traits, where they're coming from such deep spiritual lack, deep, there's a mental, emotional, it's, they're never in that starvation. Most people are not in starvation mode. They're not got absolutely nothing, but they can act as if they have nothing. They're coming very much from the victim mentality, and it's like, poor me, you've to help me, or poor me, I think you should be doing it at this because it suits them. So they want to have their financial security, they want to have their material things, they want to have certain things, but they are expecting somebody else to pay for it, right? And unfortunately, in the holistic and spiritual sector, if you're very, very compassionate and caring and want to do, and you genuinely want to support people and help them and trying to make things, a lot of caregiver archetypes and orphan archetypes can fall into this trap, where if they're very generous and tend to be someone that tends to give a lot, and they're quite open-hearted and don't sit and work on, everything's about, money and things like that. They show up and they want to do what they can do to help, and and they genuinely want to help. So they're not looking at everything from a monetary exchange perspective. But if they don't have healthy boundaries and they don't have good self-esteem and self-worth, this is something that I've had to work on, and don't have really strong boundaries, you can get really taken advantage of and really seriously manipulated by people who choose to be in the situations that they are, right? So let's think about, for example, the princess archetype. So the princess archetype in its kind of shadow form can show up as that they expect other people to take care of them. So they either maybe expect a partner, parents, or even their siblings or other people to in some way take care of them, right? And if we look at that from a financial perspective, let's keep it simple just to, for talking's sake, is if you look at it from a financial perspective where someone else most of their life has actually financially supported them. Even sometimes when you look at if people that when you're getting caught up in the benefit trap, that can be a thing as well where there's a dependency in someone else bringing the income. Okay. And there can lots of layers to this, and we can all fall in different layers to do again that it comes from, again, wounding and lack of confidence and self-esteem, worth and issues. But if you are, for example, someone who has strong rescue or martyr traits within you, and you're generally, you tend to, your core values are about being of service. If your business does not have strong boundaries and you don't have certain things and systems in play, the people that are needy, that are entitled, right? Think about the princess who think that someone else should be paying, or that, and these are the type of people who will tell you that you should be charging only a certain amount because that's what they would pay. But they still want the luxuries, they want to have it all, right? Now, the thief archetype robs us of, in its shadow element, robs us of recognizing that we have everything we need, right? And of course, we are, we're living a human experience and we all need support, we all need guidance. We all can do with help, right? I know through many times in my life that help has shifted me forward. And, we've got to do the work, we've got to do the inner work. And I do believe we're moving more and forward, where there's a lot more coming in that we can do so much, a lot of our healing and a lot of our power. Of course, it's all here. But part of living a human experience is about us working together, because we all have vulnerabilities and strengths, and we all have different things that happen that can put us at disadvantage or an advantage in certain situations, right? So, for example, I've never been someone that's been physically strong, right? So when I go, I'd be going to these supermarkets and I could never reach the shelf, and I had to ask. I didn't want to, but I'd have to ask somebody else to help reach. Could you reach? And I would be very grateful and thank you. But sometimes I would get abuse from people. I remember something really funny happened, and a woman was going along with her child. And I mean, I can't try to think what age the child. I'm saying child. Would it have been, say, about 10 or 11 or something, right? So it wasn't a young child. But anyway, and I remember going along, and I was quite, I was always a bit self-conscious about asking, and sometimes you can hardly get a, what do you call it, somebody went in the shop, you couldn't find anybody, and I said to her, I'm really sorry, but any chance you could help lift that? And she went and she started giving this drama. I've just had an operation, and she was quite abusive towards me, right? And I went, I'm really sorry. And then I heard her wee boy saying, Mum, you lied. Why did you say that? And she went, because I'm just sick of people just expecting. And I remember my confidence after that. I really found it hard to ask, right? So, but the reality is, I'm good at certain things and I have gifts and strengths. And the whole point of having a business is that we have a gift or a strength that somebody else doesn't have, or we have something that someone needs at that point. If we expected everybody, for example, to fully do everything perfect in their life, we wouldn't have businesses. If we, thought that everybody was fully healed and didn't need any help or support, there would be no role for us. If we didn't, if everybody could get all, were completely spiritually connected, soul connected, intuitively connected, they wouldn't need us. Right? But that's not the reality. We're not living in that reality yet. We've still got a long way to go. So the whole point of having a business is providing a service to help someone that has a challenge in a certain area, right? If not, you don't have a business. But it has to be respected, it has to be valued. But one of the things about the thief archetype is that they cannot see that they have enough. Their sense of lack. And you often see people that are who act very selfish, people who maybe do not do for others. They tend to keep everything. The child that keeps the sweets for themselves, right? The person that hoards lots of things, that is only focused on financial security or things and likes all the nice things, but is not open-hearted, does not share that with friends and family, is not generous. They have a deep sense of lack. There's nothing's enough because they don't trust that they have enough within themselves. There can be also this, it's lots of trauma and wounding, around the lower chakras in relation to survival at some perspective. It's not rational, it's not reality, but it's what they're projecting, and that's again something that they need to work on to heal. I sometimes get people saying, no, I cannot live that way, or I need that. But that is just a perception. So, when people are very attached to material things, whether that be a car, a home, a piece of clothing, there is often, there's more going on. And this is where sometimes when someone is in the deepest state of lack, where they just, no matter what they do, they've got enough, they start trying to steal someone else's dreams. They start stealing someone's path. They copy other people's work because they have lack within themselves, right? They just want more and they don't care how they go about it. But sometimes they do it at such a level they don't see it. I remember hiring a VA many years ago, and a lovely VA. But one of the things, and I realised she didn't even realise she was doing it. She had been working with my content and so much that actually when she was going and creating her own content, she was using my tagline, she was using all the words that I would use. She was copying, right? Now, and some of it I kind of did know, because sometimes when we're in the subconscious, when we're working with certain things and we're doing it, we don't realise what's going into the subconscious. But guess what? Then she started copying some of the content, and she started doing certain things with my content. And I knew she was very keen and ambitious, right? But she didn't realise what she was doing was not serving herself, because at the end of the day, she didn't really understand the topic that she was talking about. She was just she just seen a way to make money. And when we're in a soul alignment, we understand where our path and our lane is, and we don't just try and keep jumping in somebody else's because that looks good and, I'm going to do what she does because whatever. You recognise that what everybody else is doing is none of your business, and it's got nothing to do with you. So that you focusing on you. Of course, if you see someone that you admire, you want to learn from, genuinely want to learn and value, of course, that's a completely different energy. But if you're getting an energy just for a quick fix or just a quick buck, or just to get something you want, it's like we all know when we were younger, if you meet people that would want to steal your boyfriend, or they would just do anything to steal your boyfriend, that kind of thing, or go to any extent to get. I had somebody in my life many years ago And she, you know, unfortunately, sadly, she spent most of her life, ruining her life, going and trying to get what other people had in relation to relationships. She would always go after somebody else's relationship. She spent most of her life doing that and destroying it because there was something lacking within her. So she would go out and, you know, she would end up creating a lot of chaos within that because she was never happy, never fully happy. So look at the thief archetype, how it may show up in certain things where there's insecurity, but also where you may be living in the thief archetype because of someone else's insecurity and that you don't have boundaries. And it's one of the things that many years ago I had, and I've talked about this before, but I had an empath and sensitive groups, and there were some lovely people in the group. And there's still people that obviously that are in some of my other groups, but I had lots of other people attracted that was insane. I was getting people constantly asking me for freebies and expecting me to give. It's like when people also, the thief archetype can show up when people, this is a really good example, the thief archetype, just before I continue the story, shows up when people want free advice. So they're wanting your expert of knowledge that you've maybe spent, like, so when I think about it, you know, I've probably spent 10,000 hours at least in business and marketing, you know, studying it and doing it. And I don't mean actually studying up and get up and doing my therapies. I went actual business and marketing training and all the things that come with that, understanding all the elements of that. You know, I put a lot of work in studying it, practicing and helping people with that element. And that's a lot of expertise and a lot of money and time and energy. And then you get people who have this sense of entitlement that you should be given that for free and that they can just message you and assume that you're going to give it for free. I had a situation maybe, I'm trying to give, was it a month ago? It might not be as long as that, where someone in a group, a healer had asked, she was online and had asked for all certain help. And I didn't mind giving some pointers, but it was unbelievable what happened then in the situation. My mum was ill, and explained my mum was ill, but there was very little compassion right away. It was almost she just wanted to know all these things about and help, and she didn't care. And it was quite jarring. I knew there may have been she may have had a certain syndrome or something where it was making her certain. What I was going to say is just how she functions, I think, was slightly different. But there was a lot of rudeness went on, but a sense of entitlement. And then this expectation that I was going to keep giving her things for free. But she was presently at that point making it clear in her posts about how the people had to start valuing it and, you know, and paying for what, but she was clearly not valuing me and thought that it was that I should be giving her things for free. Again, that's the thief type showing up. But going back to the empath group, it was similar. I was getting people who had this, they were playing the victim mode to you know, try and constantly get more and more and more out of me. But it was very, very manipulative. And this can show up in different layers. And I'll give you another example because it's good to, when you hear the examples, it helps you see things from a different perspective. I always used to give some sponsorships to some of my courses, particularly bigger packages. And I stopped doing it because of difference in eyes. For example, one of the sponsorships opportunities was like, you know, the people could come and do some work for me in exchange for a course. And I remember someone applying, but they didn't want to do the work. It was clear they just wanted, they were basically wanting to get the position and get it for free, and they didn't want to do any exchange. They were not willing. Now, I would have came and went, but the person was clear. They just wanted a freebie, and there was just no graciousness there. And I also had a situation, was at the end of last year or the beginning of this year, it wasn't that long ago, where someone asked if they couldn't afford, they said, one of my courses, and they only had a certain amount, but they would do something. Now, I knew what she was implying that she would do was actually of very little value to me. She said she was going to promote something, but she didn't have a wide audience. Her audience was probably not really aligned with what I did. And I'll be honest, my gut at the time told me not to do it. But I did think, okay, I'm helping somebody out here. I'm just going to let it. And it turned out, for a lot of reasons, it was not a good thing. And then, for a variety of reasons, she came back and asked for her money back. And it was a big lesson to me because, again, that can sometimes be the thief, because sometimes I've seen people do this. I've had situations where people have asked their money back for courses and told me because they can't pay bills, but the next thing they're going on holiday. Or you can see they've just went to a fancy spa, whatever. So it's choice. There's manipulation. Can be a lot of manipulation goes on with the thief archetype. And just why I'm bringing it in with the guide is that the guide archetype is the guides people towards the light and helps people to see their divinity, right? And many spiritual workers are the guide. And the guide archetype is, so I'm just going to read out something about the guide archetype. And its light attribute, it represents nature and the divine in life and in yourself, right? But the shadow attribute is when you put financial gain and control over imparting spiritual insight. Now, interesting, I meet a lot of people who sometimes, they're trying to get as much out of you for as little money. And these can be the people who themselves, they want everybody else to be generous and help them as much, but they're actually everything's about money. They don't see it, but they have lots of issues around money. So as again, I've said, so it's about they want to keep as much to themselves and be secure, but they expect you to give everything you've got. The negative aspect is very of the guide is very sadly really high in the spiritual sector now, where it's become an industry where many people enter the spiritual sector and it's all about just making 5-10K months and all this, where they've lost sight of what being on a soul's mission's about, and true spirituality. It's all about just financial gain, not about a sacred journey or helping other people in a sacred journey. The ego is getting engulfed in this, and I'm not saying that we've to live as prophets. That's not what I'm saying. But of course, we should all value ourselves and be able to attract abundance. But I sometimes see people charging for things and making claims about things that they make extraordinary claims and charge for things. To me, that it's insane prices. But they're so focused on the money. They won't give anything away. They're not about being service to others. It's all about service to self, right? So the false guide, the false light, is the person that's just making money, who just, for example, the person that just creates the books or just creates the courses to make money, and it's all about that. It's not about being true, a true spiritual guide, not about guiding others. They do everything from a tactical up here. They don't do it from the heart. So even in their posts and things that they do, it's all just about, they do as little as possible just to get the money, right? But it's coming from a disconnection, right? So remember, the thief archetype is all in some ways, but is also can be very much in the collective when people are in a state of lack. And we're seeing a lot of things going on at the moment where people are getting really into the root chakra and in their survival response, where people can actually, the tendencies towards the thief can become, because people, for example, if you think about what happens when there's we see it in countries when suddenly there's things that happen, there's natural disasters, and then people, their ethics go out the window and they will do anything just to get something, and they do things that are not always honest because they're in the survival response and they're in their lack. They don't think that they have enough. it's not when people are doing, truly trying to survive. There's lots of situations where people create situations and they convince themselves that they need it and that they can't afford it, they can't, but actually they're not really being honest on themselves. So it's all about honesty. The thief archetype helps us really be truthful and honest with ourselves and other people. So bye for now. Make sure that you check out the Lightworkers Portal. Okay. The Archetype Portal has different levels of membership, but the middle membership, presently called the Gold membership, gives you monthly access to my deep dive coaching and healing masterclasses, where we basically go deep into one or a few archetypes in each session and help you clear certain energetic blocks, inner beliefs, certain patterns that are stopping you live your soul contract, are stopping you fully embrace your life and soul mission. Okay, Lightworkers Portal is a brand new membership, which is some of what was in the Lightworkers toolkit, but it has different levels too. It has healing transmissions in it, a lot of psychic and spiritual development tools, inner child sessions in it, different archetypal sessions, and so much more. So make sure you check that out. Meanwhile, if you are on YouTube watching this or in other social media, make sure you follow, like, and subscribe. Bye-bye for now. Have a wonderful week, everyone. Bye-bye.